welcome to Gospel Music Theory. I'm Ryan Thompson, and this will be a video, a brief introductory video, I should say, on the history of shout music. Now, when I say shout music, I'm talking about specifically traditional gospel shout music as it pertains to the African American church before 1973. Now, the mid 70s, which is when gospel music started to change to the more modern style. Then after 1996, 97, towards the end of the 20th century, music began to change again to other forms. And then other things changed, but I'm talking specifically about the original traditional style and where it came from. Now, jumping right into it. The interesting thing about shout music, the way that it's played, is that it's one of the few things that I've uncovered about gospel music. Well, one of the few things I've uncovered about gospel music is that it is not necessarily tonally derived. What do I mean by that? I mean to say that it didn't originate from a specific type of tonality. Well, if these didn't matter, then where did it come from? Oh, good question. I'm glad you asked. Now, I'll explain. You see, the original form of the shout music was derived from rhythm, not pitch. Now, the original rhythm, if you've ever been in an African American church, you know you have the stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap pattern. In 4/4, your feet would hit the ground on beats 1 and 3, and your hands would clap on beats 2 and 4. So you get the effect of Now, that was taken on its own as shout music at around 1910. Now, that was it. There was no keyboards, there were no guitars, there were no sounds. There was just that stomp clap pattern. Now, this originated because, well, quite frankly, instruments are expensive and still are. But hey, instruments were expensive, and people in the African American community and church couldn't readily afford instruments. But those that could often, well, didn't want to play in the church. Now, this is another thing that is very important to the history of gospel music. Gospel music is an amalgamation of other styles of music. What do I mean by that? I mean to say that gospel music has taken influences from other styles of music, not just the traditional forms of music of gospel, the traditional form that we know of as gospel. So I'll explain why. When people were evangelizing, they weren't talking to the people in the church. They weren't bringing people that were already in the church into the church. They were bringing people that were outside the church. And outside of the church, they had musicians. Well, what did the musicians of that time play? Well, they played blues. Some of the other musicians played classical, the Creoles in New Orleans, for instance. And the popular music of the time was big band marching music. That was the popular music of the time. But the demographic that they were primarily talking to were the blues musicians. So in blues, there is a type of progression or pattern, that's way of playing chords, that you have called boogie woogie. It is 1, 4, a dominant 7 built on the 1. Now this is the secondary dominant of the 4, tonicizing the 4, and then going back to 1. That's all that the boogie woogie pattern is. Now, remember, the shout music did not have a tonal pattern. It was basically just stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap the whole time. Now, what happened is people superimposed that boogie woogie chord progression over a bass line. Now, the first chord, the 1, is based on the 1, the first scale degree. This is in the key of A flat, one of the more common keys for shout music. The next chord, the 4 chord. Then you have the dominant 7, secondary dominant, built on the 5th scale degree in the bass. Then it goes back to 4. Built on this scale degree. Now in the key of A flat, that's not in there. That would be your 7. But since this is a blues progression, the boogie woogie, flat 7 is considered to be preferable to the major 7. Now, remember, flat 7 is part of the Mixolydian mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 8, or 1. Mixolydian, A flat Mixolydian is the 5 of D flat, your 4 chord. That's why you can use it over the 4 chord here, specifically. This is a rare instance. It's not really common. But everyone knows that this is not the bass pattern for the shout music. The shout music uses approach notes, or passing tones. In this case, specifically, a half step below. 1, approaching 4, approaching 5, approaching flat 7, approaching 1. Now, it seems strange because normally people play it fast. And so on. But over that chord, over that progression, over that bass line, you play the boogie woogie pattern over it. So this will be the end of the video. There'll be an example I'll play, and that will be it. Please enjoy and like, subscribe, and share the video. And I'll see you next time.